Hey everybody, Ben here from the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Chaos Renegades Blood Bowl 7's rosters. So we are looking at all the teams in Blood Bowl 2020, whether it is in the rulebook, the Teams of Legend PDF, or the expanded teams from the NAF. At some point, probably the secret teams from Fumble as well. But for now, we're looking at all of those rosters, and we're looking at what you can run in a Blood Bowl 7's game. Blood Bowl 7's is a quick play variant of Blood Bowl. It has a smaller pitch with smaller teams and smaller player selection, which means you can get those games in a much smaller amount of time, roughly about 45 minutes. Basically, it's a much quicker way to play Blood Bowl. If you want to know more, check out our intro to Blood Bowl 7's video, or we've got 2 seasons worth of 7 Super Series where you can go and watch Blood Bowl 2016 edition Blood Bowl 7's playing out. Anyway, today we are going to look at the myriad of rosters that you can take with Chaos Renegades. So Renegades got more variety as they went into Blood Bowl 2020, which means there's a lot of cool things you can do with them now in 7s. So before we look at the strengths and weaknesses of the Chaos Renegade roster, just got to say Pistache, Kitbash, Matt Ellis and Ryan Griffiths have already started brewing up these rosters in one of the other videos, which is cool. I know that Matt Ellis is a huge Renegades fan anyway, so awesome work, guys. So strengths and weaknesses of Chaos Renegades in Blood Bowl 7s, and just in general, it's got to be the big guys. Chaos Renegades has a choice of 4 big guys. The Ogre, the Troll, the Minotaur, and the Rat Ogre now. They got a little bit of a level up with that one. Downside is you can only take 3. You can only take 7 to 11 players in 7s anyway, so it's not the end of the world. You can only take 4 positionals in a 7s roster. That's 4 non-linemen, which means that the Renegade rosters are really interesting to balance Bash with the ability to basically do anything else. So, strength. You've got a myriad of big guys, probably one of the strongest rosters out there. Also, you have mutations on the regular for your non-big guys. So 2 heads, extra arms everywhere. I say everywhere. In 7s, you're normally ending up at about 2 to 3, maybe even 4 skills tops when you look at some kind of the resurrection formats. And Chaos Renegades being tier 2 means you'll get slightly more than normal on that, maybe even 1 double skill or secondary skill. So secondary skill, you can look at a combat skill on one of your big guys, and the rest of the time though, they can be looking at general skills on your normal folks or some really useful mutations. So extra heads for +1 dodging everywhere works great on the Goblin, works great on the Dark Elf, and quite frankly works great on the Skaven as well, because a 2+ dodge is sweet. So weaknesses, no block and no sure hands, so no core, basically ball or bash skills here. 140k for a reroll is pretty pricey. That's the price of an ogre anyway, so yeah. And the weaknesses, also the big guys. Big guys are great at smashing, but they do struggle sometimes to do the other stuff, and they are unreliable. Okay, even the ogre who's just Bonehead, still unreliable. But still a fantastically interesting team. Let's have a look at some rosters right now. We're not going to hold back. We're going to go straight in with the 3 big guys roster, which I think is the one that, yeah, it is the one that those guys were looking at. Ryan Griffiths put this one together. 3 big guys, 595. So 7's rosters coming at 600. 1 Troll, 1 Renegade Minotaur, and 1 Renegade Ogre walk into a bar. Goblin and 3 linemen means that you've got some core team. This roster is all about the big guys. You've got a Troll and a Goblin. Actually, you've got a Goblin and a Troll and a Goblin and an Ogre. You've got the potential there for the cheeky throw teammate if you need to. When it comes to 7s, or at least when it comes to Renegades, the throw teammate option for the Ogre is kind of your ace in the hole. It's not your main plan like it would be with a normal stunty roster. This Goblin is a specialist, okay? Now, skills wise, just consider 2 heads immediately on that Goblin. If you get any skills on this roster, that Goblin would look very lovely with 2 heads, because then you are stunty dodging 2++ everywhere. So you can throw him with the Ogre and you can throw him with the Troll, but he can just run up to 8 squares with a couple of rushes on 2+s basically with 2 heads. So as long as your strategy is not to roll 1s, you cannot stop that Goblin. Backed up with 3 reasonable linemen. So the Troll is there to be your slow bash. Plays really good defense, so let them come to him. Movement forward is a little bit slow. You've got the Minotaur, who is your cruise missile. Okay, if you've got a secondary skill to give block on one of your players, the Minotaur is probably the best one to do it with, because you're going to be using him offensively a lot. That said, actually putting block on the Ogre allows him to defend a lot, and then you can put Jugs potentially on the Minotaur, which is just a single. So change that around. Put Juggernaut on the Minotaur, block on the Ogre if you have a secondary skill. You've got 3 monsters. The Troll plays defense, the Ogre plays the middle bit, and the Minotaur just goes off rampaging. It's going to be carnage. It will not win as many games as you potentially would want it to, but if you're running 3 big guys in 7s, you're not there to win games, you're just there to run 3 big guys and cause carnage. But at the end of the day, Ogres are great in 7s, Minotaurs are also great in 7s, and that Goblin is just one of the best players in the game. So this roster is going to be pretty strong. But let's look at more of a less top-heavy roster. So the Mino 9 comes in at 565. A lot of these rosters are going to come in at under 600. Take assistant coaches to buffer that difference up. It gives you a better chance of swinging some rerolls off some kickoff results. So 1 Minotaur, 1 Goblin, and 5 Linemen, backed up with a Dark Elf and a Skaven. So the Dark Elf and the Skaven on the Chaos Renegade roster are your fastest and most agile players. They are the ones you want in 7s. They are vulnerable. Actually, the Dark Elf's better than that. Dark Elf is armor 9+, the Skaven is armor 8+, which is great. Dark Elf having Edge 2+ and the Skaven having movement 7 means that they are both going to be fantastic, whether they are running the game, as in your game manager, by being the guy with sure hands, whether they're passing, or whether they're just being the rusher. Okay, really good. They also, each of them, make really good safeties. The downside here is that you to make a good safety out of the Dark Elf or the Skaven, you normally want to stack a couple of skills together. The Skaven there really needs to get 2 heads if you want it to be your safety, getting that +1 dodge, but that does mean you won't have wrestle. So interesting point there. However, what this roster gives you is it gives you a Minotaur, a bunch of dudes, and an Edge 2 player, a movement 7 player, and a stunty dodge player as well. It gives you a little bit of everything, and this is going to be kind of like a toolbox thing. You suffer when it comes to combat skills, but you've got a Minotaur and a bunch of really reliable players. Talking of reliable players, the Ogre is definitely more reliable than the Minotaur, and with a few bits juggling around, actually this roster is pretty sweet. So we've got the Ogre reroll here, which comes in at 595. You get the Ogre, the Dark Elf, the Skaven, and the Goblin. 3 linemen, so 7 players total, and that reroll. So the Ogre and the Goblin definitely combos off. You've got a potential to throw teammate there. But, like we said before, the Goblin can be running around. The Ogre does a superb job of being a blitzer. Tends to be a better assist, so if you only want to put a single on the Ogre, actually chucking guard on the Ogre is going to mean that he is a mobile fortress that's just going to make your other players better. Having that reroll on your roster means you can open up and actually take those chances, and it's going to potentially balance out the fact that you don't have any combat skills. Skills on this team, potentially then you want to be spending them on combat. Ogre is going to do great with guard, couple of block potentially on the Skaven and a lineman. Saving and potentially taking dodge or leader on the Dark Elf is going to be great. Leader is going to allow you 2 rerolls in a 7s format. That's huge. That might make up for the lack of skills. Block on the Skaven is going to mean that he's actually a kind of semi-blitzer. Movement 7 is actually really good, and a lineman there just to follow up, maybe even kick just to control the board. You're still limited by your combat here, but the Ogre is way more reliable than the Minotaur, even if it doesn't have quite so high a top end when it comes to just rampaging through your enemies. Let's have a look at the Troll now. So the Troll reroll build is basically the same as the Ogre reroll build. You just get a bit of extra cash to spend on assistant coaches. This is going to be slightly worse, but that Troll having regeneration kind of makes up sometimes for the fact that big guys can end up getting a bit lost. The downside of taking the Troll is that you don't get enough cash to really upgrade anybody else. So you've got that reroll, you've got those linemen, you've got your individual positionals, and you've got the Troll. Sure, the Troll's got more resilience with regeneration, but it's got a lot less movement and a much bigger downside. So you only save 25k And I don't know if you're going to get 25k out of it, but if you are a troll fanboy, then this is probably the best way to run it in the Chaos Renegades roster. Okay, let's look at the max frenzy build here. So 575, you get a Rat Ogre, a Minotaur, backed up with that team of Dark Elf and Skaven and 3 linemen. So 7 players total. 575. You can drop a Dark Elf or Skaven for that all-important Goblin if you want. I actually think you're going to be better off potentially with the Skaven and the Dark Elf here. So Rat Ogre and Minotaur, the whole plan of this roster is just to do that 1-2 punch. They've both got Frenzy, hence Max Frenzy. So you can blitz with one and just try and keep them in combat. Strength 5 in a 7s environment is going to mean that they are going to have to gang up to get enough assists to make a profitable block. And the fact that these guys have both got Mighty Blow, if you get them in the thick of it and you've got 3 linemen, and your linemen are very resilient, okay, they're very respectable linemen. So actually, if you kind of buddy up each of your big guys with a lineman, your opponent is going to struggle to get enough strength to take them out, and you're just going to end up with a couple of different frenzy mosh pits. If you've got skills to put combat stuff on them, that's fantastic, but the whole plan of this team here is to kind of just have a 1-2 punch of frenzy death. Now, you can get outplayed, and if an opponent is able to disengage and just lead them on a merry chase with a snotling or a zombie or something like that, then it's not going to be quite so great. But your backup plan is 3 linemen, a Skaven and a Dark Elf. And let's face it, even one of those big guys coming loose is going to create a hole wherever you point them at. So I love this roster. We didn't include the Rat Ogre earlier because you can just swap the Minotaur out for the Rat Ogre in any of the other builds. I think if I was going to take one big guy, the Minotaur is better because of horns. When you get into a big guy versus big guy clash, that Mino blitz at strength 6 is going to be really important. The Rat Ogre, though, is a superb assist. So you blitz with the Minotaur, you brawl with that Rat Ogre, and that is actually something you can consider for skills. So if you want to be blitzing with the Minotaur, you can put Jogs, which is a primary skill. And if you want the Rat Ogre to be in the thick of things, you can just give it Brawler. So as long as you are feeding people to your Rat Ogre, it's going to be able to make the most of 2-die block, reroll that both down, 2-die block, reroll that both down, and then murder you. We've got to fit at least one meme roster into every episode, and this is the meme roster for the team here. No big guys. Alright, we can look at what you can do without big guys. So you can get 1 reroll, an Apothecary, 3 linemen, a Goblin. We've said the Goblin is good. Skaven and a Dark Elf, those are also not bad players. And you can chuck in the Human Thrower there. Now the Human Thrower is not great. He's just a worse version of a Human Thrower in every way. No sure hands and a passing rating of 3+. But he will form a very respectable leader caddy, giving this team 2 rerolls and allowing you to take an actual skill on your Dark Elf. So dodge, block, wrestle, whatever you want to do with a Dark Elf, then you might actually be able to form a functional team. This does miss the fun of those big guys, but if you want to run a ragtag bunch of just underperformers, then this roster will definitely give you that vibe, I think. Straight up, guys, every time I do these roster videos, there is a roster or 2 rosters I absolutely want to run in 7s. And the great thing about 7s is that if you have a 7s evening, when the world reopens, you can just take 3 teams and you will have a game with each one of them in a night. So, I love it. Talking of 3s, the 3 big guys roster, it has got to be the one for Chaos Renegades. I love the double big guy, like the Max Frenzy version. You can drop out one of them for the Ogre to make it slightly more reliable and go for a 1-2 punch there with a kind of reliable blocker. It's much more fun with Frenzy. But this roster here is it's just what Chaos Renegades want to do, is run those 3 big guys and just unleash that on your opponent. No other team can take this much cool stuff in one go. You've got a tiny mutated dude that you can just have a ton of fun with and get your crazy stunty fun. You've got 2 guys that can go for throw teammate with that same guy, and all of them are 2-die blocking almost every other player in the game. The Minotaur is an absolute cruise missile. That Ogre is just a fantastic anything, really. You can even give him a ball. Agility 4+ is going to be okay half of the time. And the Troll is also there. You guys know how I feel about Trolls, but the fact is that you've kind of upgraded your Skaven to a Strength 5 Mighty Blow regen piece. Just imagine playing against this team. Okay, you know me, I like my edge, I like my agility, so actually I like the challenge of setting up a Skaven team, going for that side cage, going for the... Deploying against 3 big guys. You've got the Troll in the centre, and you've got a Minotaur and an Ogre on the edge. Where do you even go with that? You can tag each of them up, but it's going to cost you 3 players because they're just going to give them all 3 blocks. And that's going to be 4 because at least one of them is going to have Frenzy. So you can feed guys to the big guys, but it's going to get brutal. And if that Ogre gets break tackle, it's away on a 2+ into the open. This team is just muscle in 7s. And I think Ogres is the only other roster that can take as much muscle. Yes. And that is super. Actually, the Snotling team can afford the Trolls and the Pump Wagons. But I feel like it's balanced out. This roster is cool. You've got great miniature opportunity. You've got one of each dude to paint up. It's 7s. This is just so much fun. This has got to be in my top 5 teams I want to play in 7s. It's just so cool. Anyway, I'm going to stop gushing because I realise the past 7 minutes has just been me saying about how great big guys are. So, going to wrap up. Let me know what you think of Renegades and 7s. Clearly, I've got too excited. But you know what? I love Minotaurs. Who knew? Got Minotaurs, got Trolls, got Rat Ogres. It's just awesome. And this team allows you to play with a bit of everything. And your opponent is just going to have to remove players. That's awesome. Right, let me know what you think. We'll be back again soon with more Blood Bowl content, happy blocking, and happy frenzy big guy blocks, because murder. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the show even further, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Or come and join us in our Patreon, link below, where you get early access to our content and monthly competitions. See you later.